polar vortex brings dangerously cold weather to New England. A large part of the U.S. is preparing for the coldest December in years, after the polar vortex made a comeback. The polar vortex is located in the middle and upper troposphere and extends into the stratosphere. It is a band of low-pressure Arctic air, normally centered around the North Pole, and can strengthen or weaken. A strong polar vortex keeps the air closer to the North Pole, while a weak polar vortex spreads cold air southward. The polar vortex is held in place by a jet stream that divides cold air from warm air. The jet stream bends around high or low pressure weather systems. When it does, the center of the vortex moves south into North America. 2 Arctic blasts will make their ways into the U.S., with the first round of cold air already affecting the plains and upper Midwest. The second wave will plunge south of the Canadian border by this weekend. The most intense lobe of the polar vortex will cover New England by Friday, bringing dangerously cold weather to the area. The polar vortex was first reported in 2014, but major vortex events took place long before that, in 1977, 1982, 1985, and 1989.
Parts of the United States will experience record-breaking low temperatures this week, caused by a polar vortex. A polar vortex is a persistent, large-scale cyclone located near one or both of the Earth's poles in the middle and upper troposphere and stratosphere. The size of a polar vortex could span up to 2,000 kilometers, in which the air is spinning counterclockwise. The spinning winds normally trap the cold air in the Arctic, but sometimes the vortex can weaken or breaks into pieces. This allows cold air to spill south, affecting regions such as eastern United States and Europe. A winter storm in the US this past week has already killed at least 16 people and caused the cancellation of more than 3,700 flights over the weekend.
Allow me to break the ice. You are not sending me to the cooler. Freeze well.
Show some mercy.
I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold. Do you please have mercy?
All right, everyone. Chill.
It's a cold town. Cool party.
Leave it to the Americans to take it to the next level. Not content with a cold front or even a severe cold front, some marketing genius had to come up with the apocalyptic-sounding term polar vortex. All right, I mean, we know a polar vortex is in fact a real weather thing, but the media's handling of the whole thing has been a bit much. Really? Did she escape by the skin of her teeth? Did her plane almost get sucked into the vortex? We're not denying it. This North American winter storm has been a bitch. In Kentucky, an escaped inmate turned himself in after just one night on the lam, saying freedom was just too damn cold. Kids rejoiced and parents grumbled as schools, offices, and roads across North America were closed as temperatures dipped to minus 20, 30, or even minus 40 degrees Celsius. In Chicago, a polar bear at the Lincoln Park Zoo had to be brought indoors because it was too cold for a polar bear. Up in Canada's Manitoba province, temperatures plummeted to minus 53 degrees Celsius, and for a bit of perspective, the Curiosity rover crawling around Mars registered a maximum temperature of minus 29 on Tuesday. Thousands of flights across the U.S. were canceled, and police even had to be called into Toronto's Pearson Airport to try and calm angry travelers. More than one idiot tried to get in a dig about global warming, but they obviously didn't get the memo about how climate change means more than just hotter summers. To summarize, the 2014 polar vortex was a result of a rare combination of factors, and yet climate change could be one of them. The day after tomorrow will come soon enough, but we might have to start getting used to these once-in-a-lifetime events.
It's getting hot in the Arctic. It may still be the middle of winter, but the weather in the North Pole has gotten so warm it may as well be summer. Arctic sea ice typically develops a thick layer from late September to early March, with temperatures in the region normally below freezing. This year's Arctic winter, however, is unusually warm. Temperatures have risen to over 36 degrees above normal, and sea ice has started melting. A theory known as warm Arctic cold continents suggests that as the polar vortex becomes unstable, warm air is taken in and cold air expelled. The North Pole gets hotter as a result, while certain parts of Europe are subjected to unusually frigid weather. The Though the theory itself remains debatable, the fact remains that whatever changes happen in the Arctic have a huge impact on the rest of the world.
Record low temperatures cause fatal pipe rupture in Colorado. A water pipe at a fracking site in Colorado burst this morning, killing the worker who was trying to thaw it and injuring 2 others.
It's still going to be under investigation for a while, but what I can tell you so far is it was a water line. It was a high-pressured water line that ruptured.
The fatal accident happened in Wells County, at a hydraulic fracturing site owned by Anadarko Petroleum Corporation. Temperatures dropped as low as -8 degrees during the night, causing some pipes to freeze. Around 9:30 a.m., 3 workers went to thaw the high-pressure water main. That's when one of the pipes suddenly burst, and according to the spokeswoman, water shot out with enormous force.
That results in about 2,500 or 3,500 psi from this water line coming out.
To put that into perspective, a fire hose can only shoot water up to 400 pounds per square inch. That's about 1/8 of the pressure that came from this pipe. 2 workers, aged 28 and 48, were taken to nearby medical centers, and they're expected to survive. Police have not yet identified the man who was killed. The accident was reportedly the first of its kind in the area.
I asked almost everyone that's got a lengthy history here, and they cannot remember a fatality on an oil site.
4 fracking sites have been shut down while safety officials investigate.
Pacific typhoon whips the jet stream south, bringing freezing air to the U.S. Midwest. The remnants of Pacific Typhoon Nuri have forced frigid Arctic air south over the northern plains and the mountain states this week, bringing temperatures down into the teens in some areas. The sudden plunge in temperatures has been brought about by a shift of the westerly jet stream, which separates colder Arctic air and warmer air at lower latitudes. The former Super Typhoon Nuri headed north towards Alaska on Friday, pushing up the jet stream and causing it to ripple south over the United States, bringing cold air and low temperatures down over the central states. The cold snap is expected to bring the first broad layer of snow and flurries from Montana down to Nebraska and out towards Wisconsin.
Humans have a number of mechanisms for adapting to extreme cold temperatures. Cold triggers vasoconstriction of the skin's surface, concentrating blood flow to the body's core to keep internal organs warm. Goosebumps are caused by contracted hair follicles. Risen hairs help capture heat radiating from the body. The metabolic rate also rises in cold temperatures to generate more heat to warm the body. People living in extreme subarctic regions, such as the Inuit, have much higher basal metabolic rates to survive the cold. Other warm-blooded animals, such as the polar bear, have evolved thick fur coats and layers of fat.
Melting sea is bad news for polar bears. The authors of a new study warn that polar bear numbers could drop drastically over the next 35 years because of global warming. A review by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature forecasts that polar bear numbers will fall by 1/3 by the middle of the century. The global polar bear population is currently estimated to stand at 26,000. The study suggests there is a 70% chance that figure will drop 30% by 2050. Melting sea ice caused by global warming is the main threat to the survival of polar bears. Polar bears depend on sea ice as a floating platform to hunt seals, which can outswim them in the water. The presence of man-made chemicals in the food chain is another major threat to polar bear numbers. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature monitors endangered species on its red list. The organization classifies polar bears as vulnerable, meaning the species faces a high risk of extinction in the wild.
Many people in Canada are experiencing loud noise caused by a phenomenon known as frostquakes. Frostquakes happen when groundwater seeps into the soil and bedrock after a heavy rainstorm or snow. When temperatures fall rapidly, the water trapped in the soil and bedrock freezes. Water expands when it freezes, putting pressure on the surrounding soil and bedrock. The pressure from the expanding ice eventually causes the soil and bedrock to crack, creating a loud noise and occasionally shaking the ground. Frostquakes might feel like a localized earthquake, but they are in fact non-tectonic events.
Peace. What up, y'all? It's Phil James. Coming back to you yet again with another video. Today is Wednesday. It is April 25th. It is 2018, and it's about 4:32. How we doing? Hopefully pretty good. So by this point, you've seen that previous 11-minute clip. I kind of cut it down. It was a video made by Tomorrow News. So I went ahead and used it, and there will be links in the description below, obviously. But I want to go ahead and show that because it was talking about the polar vortex. Now, you know, like it even said in that video, polar vortex was a term coined in 2014. I've said it before in my videos. Where did this word come from? I never heard it until a few years ago, which now, 4 years ago. You know what I mean? So, just like Arctic blast and bombogenesis, all these random terms. Why do they do it? Well, they do it because it keeps everybody confused, and it covers their geoengineering footprint. Because, see, we have things called ionosphere heaters. Now, the problem when, you know, these polar vortexes happen, it's a spinning vortex at the top, right? Warm air goes up and pushes that cold air out of the vortex. We have things called ionosphere heaters, like HARP facilities. We have Doppler weather radar. You know, we have wet surface air coolers. You know, we have the ability to cut clouds, cloud seed, and we have the ability to brighten clouds and to do all kinds of things, plus the stuff they don't tell us. So, by us already seeing the geoengineering, and they're just now admitting it, you have to assume they have a lot more technology that we just don't even know about yet. But anyways, you know, I was just talking about those terms, those coined terms that nobody has heard in their whole life until just recently. You hear those, and you hear how they're talking about these crazy winters, but yet still climate change and global warming are still just so relevant, you know what I mean, in the mainstream news. So you look, and then you see articles like this that came out today, this morning at 10:19. So, climate change is not as bad as we thought, say scientists. What? Like, they've spent billions upon billions of dollars pushing that propaganda piece of global warming and climate change when they're the cause of it, because they even tell us, you know, people like David Keith from Harvard University and other geoengineering activists, they even tell us we are changing the climate or manipulating our climate to combat climate change. So you know what I mean? What? But now that they've pushed this propaganda about global warming and climate change, now they're coming out saying it's not going to be so bad. It's about 35-40% less intense than what was originally accepted by the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change. And then, you know, it goes on to talk about the Paris Agreement and all that, like cutting carbon emissions and da-da-da-da. But anyways, I want to go ahead and show maybe some pictures here real quick. Yeah, I mean right here. Future global warming is likely to be much lower than predicted. What? Like, are you kidding me? Now all of a sudden it's much lower than predicted. So there's climate change pictures showing the effects of global warming on our planet. I'm not going to play that. You can come here and check it out yourself. But because I always talk about Harvard and all of us in the geoengineering activism community do, check this out. Harvard study links Earth's slower rotation to global warming. Well, the rotation's never been proven, but okay.
A Harvard study...
Yeah, you can play. It's cool. I'll tell you guys what. This stuff pisses me off. Alright, now after closing this app out and reopening it, let's try this video one more time.
A Harvard study has shown that rising sea levels due to global warming have triggered a slowdown in the Earth's rotation, and further climate change will continue to do so. A team led by Harvard researcher Jerry Mitrovica published their results in Science Advances. They identified changes in the Earth's rotation this century, as well as linking it to sea levels that are rising at unprecedented levels because of the melting of our continental and oceanic ice sheets. Now, before you freak out, I will point out that the rotational slowdown is very, very small. We're talking about over the next 100 years, the length of one day will increase by 1.7 milliseconds, because it will take 1.7 milliseconds longer for the Earth to spin around one full rotation.
Now that's strange, because the way I just saw that... No, do not play this shit, dude. So the way I just saw that, I knew it. No, but the whole article, the title of it, is how climate change and global warming aren't as bad as they've said. So if we're already showing signs and symptoms, by slower rotation speeds due to global warming. Now, if that was the case, wouldn't that be majorly bad? And that would mean that we're still going to have the full-blown effects. You know what I mean? So that kind of just goes against that. But I mean, it's unbelievable. We're seeing, and RFB's also played a video that he's found. And that video says we better prepare for a mini ice age. So they put all this different stuff out like usual. Keep everybody confused, keep everybody divided in opinions, so nobody can agree on anything. By doing that, they keep us not united, not together, not a community. Community is gone. Okay, and like I've said numerous times, they are the ones doing it. They tell us they're trying to manipulate climate to combat the climate change.
I mean, the issue really that has to go on being focused on big time, I think, is this one around the whole issue of climate change, which, now, whether we like it or not, is the biggest threat multiplier we face. Because what's happening now is what I was dreading, which is that we're having to deal all the time with the symptoms that are springing up all around the world, and which is they're diverting us off down all these different channels to try and deal with ghastly conflicts and humanitarian and natural disasters and goodness knows what else. But at the root of it all, much of it is climate change, which is causing untold horrors in different parts of the world.
See, now that's funny to me, because they tell us that they are trying to manipulate the climate to combat the upcoming climate change that will be catastrophic to all species, including us. You know what I mean? So it's just unbelievable. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this comes from the Express, so no surprise that there's another contradicting article coming out from another mainstream, completely controlled and owned news agency. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to show it. I thought it was pretty funny that they show all these different things, and they use all these different terms to cover what they're doing, what they have admittedly started doing and told us they would be doing, and have had patents that are made directly for doing what they say they don't do. So, you know what I mean? It's just unbelievable. And I wanted to show that because I thought it was pretty funny in that series. Just what the fuck is happening, right? Sorry, but it's true. Nobody even knows. They keep us so confused and so divided, like mainstream and the sleeping masses as a whole, that no community between the 99% will ever fully, sink in. It'll always be, the 1% against the 99%. But it's like at its best, 97% just don't care out of the 99. So, whatever, y'all. Alright, y'all. Phil James. I'm out. Be sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you have not. Hit the bell if you have not. Live stream hopefully coming up here soon. Links in the description below. And, alright, y'all. Peace.